Hello, everybody, and welcome to our love success story interview with the amazing Wendy Mason. Wendy is a pretty cool cat, so welcome, Wendy. We're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, as always.
So everybody's very excited to hear your story tonight. Interestingly, Wendy's story is, yes, one of love, but not just love, actually. She's had some pretty great success in her business and personal life as well. So let's talk about that. So Wendy, I think we met, I think it was 2018. Is that right?
Oh, I think we might need to go a little bit further back than
Really?
that.
Okay.
I think it might have been like 2016, actually.
Really? That far? Okay. Oh, it's longer than I thought.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I believe it was at a speaking engagement I was at, and you heard me speak there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. I always like telling this story, and I don't know if it takes up too much time, but it makes me laugh every time I think. So I was a mortgage broker at the time, and everything was always about networking, right? So you got to be out and whatnot. And so Karen was a speaker at one of these events, but I missed her opening. I was out, whatever, chit-chatting with somebody else in one of the lobbies or whatnot. And then I think it was at the Infinity Center. Yeah. So then, I go back in and Karen's up on stage and she's telling her story. And I was like, oh, you need to write a book. Like, are you kidding me? Right. So, and I just felt like you were talking to me, right? Everything, all the stories that you were sharing, I just really felt a connection, I guess, with your story. And I remember going up to you after you were finished your speaking engagement. I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like you need to write a book. She's like, I did. She showed me the book that she had been talking about. So it was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was going on for you at that point in your life, Wendy? Like what made you want to reach out?
God, at that time, it was just, I'd been married twice already and divorced twice. And then just, a series of relationships, like decent relationships, I will say, like good men. Like was never really with any, all those, maybe a couple of them, but, it was just, I was looking for the wrong thing, like hindsight's 2020, right? So now that after I went through the course with Karen, it just had me just sort of reevaluating who I was and making sure that I was spending more time on me. And once I got me sorted out, that's when all the good things started to happen.
So tell everybody a little bit about those good things. What has changed since we met way back when?
God, it's funny actually, Karen, I just moved a couple of weeks ago and I pulled out one of the dioramas thing that we had done where we had, what we were looking for and what we had as part of our qualities and what we were looking for in a partner. And I kept it. So it was still in my moving supplies as I moved a little while ago. It was interesting taking a look at it. But honestly, really what I learned was to be true to me, right? To really find out what it is that I want and not trying to see how I can fit into somebody else's world, or I think that's good enough. And, whatever, nobody's perfect, right? So when you start making these little excuses for what are the red flags at the beginning, I don't know, maybe you think they're cute, or maybe you think that it's not going to be that big of a deal. But, I just learned that, listen to that inner voice, like listen to, when you hear things come up, or if there's things that kind of make you pull back for a second and think about it, that's kind of your gut talking, right? Like that's your inner wisdom that you really, really need to pay attention to. And I think that was a big part of it. And I had met somebody kind of maybe 2 months in, I guess, to the program that I was doing with Karen. And oh my God, I can't even tell you how tempted I was to just stop. Right. So I was like, I did it. All right. I did it. I found somebody. And he was a great man. He, and I say was because we're no longer together. But it was a good relationship. And it was actually one of the first relationships I ended when I was still happy, right? We weren't arguing. We weren't in like a really miserable place. I just wasn't filled, like my cup wasn't filled, right? So I knew that there was something there or something wasn't there, and I needed to be true to myself. So I actually broke up with somebody that I still loved. Like it was the weirdest experience that I had been through, but I knew that it wasn't for me. I knew that it wasn't the right space for me to be in at the time. So I stayed doing the course with with Karen. I didn't jump ship as soon as I had found somebody, because I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing it just to find a boyfriend. I think when I first signed up for it, I was lonely, and I was like, I got to find something. I need something here for me. But I quickly learned through that I wasn't looking for a boyfriend. I was looking for like a peace. Like I was just looking for something to be happy with myself before I was able to bring somebody else into the fold.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that, Wendy, because it's part of why I usually recommend when people are doing Transform Your Life to not date, because I find too often women just repeat the pattern. By the second that they're making really good progress in their life and how they feel about themselves, and then the second a guy enters this picture, they drop everything for him and they put themselves aside again and their goals aside and everything. And then if it doesn't work out, train comes through and we're starting all over again. So,
yeah.
So I can't remember if we had the conversation, because I've had it with enough women. When they do start dating, I'm like, okay, but keep doing the program.
Right.
Don't drop it. Keep focusing
Yeah.
on yourself, because if you want a healthy relationship, it starts with a foundation of being happy with yourself. And there's just no two other ways about it. And, you know, I think credit to you, Wendy, because you did do the work. You know, I would hazard a guess that it was easier to say no to the wrong person than it would have been otherwise.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because there's that, I don't want to be alone, because it's not bad, right? It wasn't abusive. Like it was very respectful. We had fun together. We just were more like friends than anything, right? So it was really hard for me to end that when, by all accounts, it was good, right? But it wasn't good enough. Like it wasn't feeding my soul. It wasn't what I know I deserved to have and what was available for me out there.
Yeah. And, you know, and we talk often about the importance of keeping your standards high and knowing what you want and not just settling for, well, I guess this is good enough, right? Because you can't lie to your heart. Your heart knows what it wants. And
it does.
Yeah. And so this is a good segue into, because you kept your standards high, because you knew what you wanted, you know, eventually you did. I can't remember how long was it after that relationship ended to when you met Ben?
Not that long. Like it wasn't all that long. And I've actually known Ben for a really long time. I've known Ben. So we're together now for about 2.5 years. I knew him for about 10 years prior to us reconnecting through a business type of relationship. And after I had ended my relationship with Dean, I swore up, down, left, right that I am not going back on dating websites again. Like, forget it. Not going to happen. I'm just not doing it. Right. And then one day something just came over me. I was like, okay, fine. I'll do it. Right. I'll put something up, whatever. Well, so then I put a profile up, and then here's like this freaking sexy ass dude that I can't even tell you what kind of things I had thought about earlier times when I had met him, but I was in relationships and he was in relationship at it was just not something that I ever thought. And then all of a sudden he sees me actually on Plenty of Fish of all sites. And he was like, what are you doing on here? And I was like, what are you doing on here? And that was it. That, you know, we went out, we met up for a drink, and we just kind of reconnected. But I'll tell you, we took it slow though, boy, oh boy. Like it was probably one of the slowest starts to a relationship that I've ever had. And I will say, he drove the bus more than I did. I probably would have liked for it to go a little bit, move along a little bit quicker, but he was still healing from a previous relationship. And he was just really wanting to make sure that he was keeping, I don't want to say keeping me at bay, but just making sure that we were doing it slow and that we really took the time to get to know each other really, really well before things got too serious. I mean, we still don't live together. We've decided we're keeping our own separate houses until we both have teenagers. So we're waiting until the kids are out of school, because we don't want to ruin a really good thing, because it's amazing. Like, what we have is just incredible. And I am not willing to sacrifice and make any kind of misstep, because everything is just so awesome, the way it is. And it's because we took that time, and he's very, very in touch with himself. Like, he knows what he wants, he knows what he needs, and I know what I want, and I know what I need. So we just really took that time to make sure that we were that person for each other.
So what was different about him? How did you know he was different? What set him apart from other guys?
You know why? Because with him, I can be so authentically me. And I've never experienced that before. Even with my family, like, I can be more authentic me than I can with my mom and my sisters and, that whole side of the family. When I'm with him, I can be quirky because I'm a little quirky, right? I hurt myself a lot. I tripped and I burned food and right? Like, I do all of these things, and he just appreciates that. Like, he doesn't make fun of me. He doesn't, we joke with each other, of course, but I can just be so me, and I don't have to worry what he's going to think. He doesn't have to like all of the same things that I like. We have different interests. Of course, we have a lot of common interests, but we have differing interests as well. And that's okay. I still take out time. I just came back. I was with him for 5 days at his house when my son is away. So I spent some time at his house, and I can just go and read a book for 3 hours without having to see what he's doing. Like, I don't have to follow him around his house like a little puppy. We're together, but we're still individuals, right? Like, I'm still hold true to myself, and every decision I make is about me. I'll factor in how other people kind of fit into it. But at the end of the day, it's just really making sure that I'm focusing on me and being true to me, and not being what I think other people want, or not behaving in a way that I think other people expect. Because first of all, you never know what somebody else is thinking, right? Like, you can think all you want, what they're thinking, but you don't know, right? So if you're trying to be this person that you think they want, it's not going to work. Like, you shouldn't have to try and be somebody different that you think. So you're off on that side is going to be wrong. But how do you know what they want you to be? Right? So just by sticking and staying true to yourself, you're going to find that person that appreciates you for who you are, and not try to change like, not one little piece about me. Like, there's not one little thing that Ben has done or said that has made me feel like I need to change a little bit. Not once.
How would you say your life is better with him in it than it was before?
Oh, he's my biggest cheerleader. Like, we didn't talk anything really about my business at all. So I was a mortgage broker for 20-ish years. And for the last 5, I'm a health coach. So a health coach and personal trainer. And I was just kind of doing it on the side while I was working my business. And if any of you are in the finance industry, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to to offend your industry at all, but I was in it for 20 years, and it's soul sucking for me. Like, it was really draining me. And I think that was playing into some of the decisions I made outside of professional life too, right? I wasn't really satisfied in my work life. So I was kind of reaching elsewhere to find things that would kind of excite me, or, keep life interesting. But yeah, so I just started focusing a little bit more on my coaching business and my personal training. And I've just made the switch. So I was just kind of doing part-time coaching and personal training and full-time mortgage brokering. And then I kind of switched it a little bit. So I was coaching primarily, but still doing mortgages. And I am now officially no longer, I hung up my broker license. I'm 100% in my coaching business, and I'm opening a wellness center as well now. So, you know, things are pretty exciting. And when you actually make that decision to focus on yourself and invest time in yourself, invest money in yourself, like I did the program with Karen. I've done so many other different coaching programs along the way that help me with my business, of course. But anytime you do courses like that, even if it's just for your business, you're going to personally benefit from it as well. So it really it all comes back to just taking care of yourself and just making decisions that are for you, right? That are going to get you ahead. And if it works in somebody else's agenda, perfect. But if it doesn't, that's their problem, not yours.
That's what I love so much about your story, Wendy, is so what I remember when we first met was there was a bit of a hesitation in you, like almost like you needed permission to go after what you wanted. And I'm like, Wendy, like go, like we get one life, go after what you want. And you really have, like, I mean, like gangbusters, and you're achieving it all. And really, I would say in a relatively short period of time, because I mean, setting up a business is no small deal. Finding love, no small deal. You're a mom as well. Like, you know, there's a lot on your plate, but you're not letting anything stop you. You decided what you wanted, and you decided you were going to do whatever it took to accomplish that. And kudos to you, because it's when you have that mindset that you actually, you know, get what you want.
Well, it's 100%. It's a mindset. And it's a confidence issue. Like so many good things come out of boosting your self-confidence, right? So whatever it is that you need to do to help elevate that level of confidence that you have in yourself, even if you have to fake it at first, right? It starts to become real and natural. And, you know, just try going outside of so many things going outside of my comfort zone along this journey has gotten me here to where I am, right? If you just stay in your comfort zone always, maybe it's a little bit safe in there, but it's boring as anything.
What we want in life is not in our comfort zone. This we know. No. We have to expand our comfort zone to be able to get to what we're looking for, which means crossing the bridge of fear, which means doing things that feel a little scary at first. What part of our work together, Wendy, would you say had the biggest impact on you?
Oh boy. I learned a lot about myself when we did the work with the Archetypes. I don't know if you've done any of that yet with this group here, but just going through and just seeing, you know, what's my archetype, what's my mom's, what's my dad's, like just going through and seeing all of that. And then I went through the exercise with my exes. Right. I was like, okay, well, what archetype would this person have been? And seeing all that stuff on paper, I was like, oh my God, I'm dating my dad and my mom, but all the qualities in them that I didn't like. Like it was the weirdest thing. I still don't really understand the psychology behind why you do that. But I was like, I'm dating all of the things I don't want. Like I was being gravitated to those qualities. So but by going through and doing that work, I was able to see it now, right? Like even now, even still, sometimes Ben will do something I'm like, that's my dad, right? Like all in good ways too, right? But it's just it's really an interesting phenomena how you do repeat those same patterns over and over again. But when you see the pattern, it's so much easier to avoid when you can spot that pattern rearing its head. Nope.
Did you have a few of those no's before you got to Ben?
There There were, like, I had gone out, I had gone out on a few dates, and I just knew, like, it was funny, like right away I would go out. I went on, like, between Dean and Ben, I probably went on maybe 5 or 6 different dates. And I just knew, and I found myself starting to kind of go down that path. I'd go out on a date with someone. I'm like, oh, well, he's athletic and he likes to golf and I like to golf, and he's got teenage kids and I have teenage kids. You know how you guys do this, right? Like, you go through and you paint this whole picture of how everything is going to be perfect. And then you meet them, and I just really learned, trust your gut, Wendy. Like, trust your gut. Like, when you sit down, I got to a point where I knew within 30 seconds really of sitting down with somebody, how my gut felt. And it came down to listening to that intuition and listening to those signals that your gut is giving you. It's, we know what's best for ourselves. Sometimes we just don't like to listen, but we know.
That couldn't have said it better myself. So if you were to offer any last words of wisdom to the women watching this who are wanting to find love, but maybe feeling a little discouraged, like you probably felt at one point too, what would you say?
You know what? I would just say, get out, like I said, get outside your comfort zone and just get out there and meet people and put yourself into situations where, like, in places that you like if you don't like karaoke bars or anything, don't go on a date in a karaoke bar. Like, don't hang out in those places. Like, hang out in the places where you like to hang out, where you like to spend, and as weird or as quirky as it is, like, if you, I don't know, I was trying to think of some different activities that people like to do, but I don't want to for me to say it and think that it's weird, right? Like, just think of whatever your interests are, like, just start to gravitate and hang out with those kind of people and put yourself in those kind of situations where you could meet somebody. If you like to bowl, find groups of people that like to bowl, right? Like, how cool would it be to meet somebody that's like that? But you got to put yourself out there, right? You have to understand that you're going to get uncomfortable here for a little while for you to find somebody, because they're certainly not going to be knocking down your door, right? You've got to go out and put yourself out there and make yourself visible and take some chances. Like, really, what's the worst that could happen? You go out on a date with someone, you don't like the person, you didn't hit it off, whatever, you got out of the house and maybe got a nice cup of coffee, right? So just sort of, keep a positive attitude about it, and don't let yourself get all wrapped up in, if you are on a dating website and their profile is perfect and you think they're going to be like this perfect match for you, just try and keep yourself tethered, like, just make sure that you don't let yourself get too far ahead of yourself. Like, you still haven't met this person yet. So just, keep an open mind, because just because it looks good on paper, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a success story in the end. But you know what? You've gone out and you've met somebody else, right? Like, the more people you meet, the better you are.
Absolutely. Great words of advice, Wendy. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story today. It's very inspirational, and it gives people hope that they can find what they're looking for too. So Wendy is a testament to the fact that you should never give up, and also that you should, figure out what you want and go for that, and keep your bar high until you actually find it.
Yeah. And thank you. Here I am, right? Like, it was a little serendipitous for me being there that day and getting into that Transform Your Life program. It was life-changing. Like, it changed my path for sure.
Well, so glad to have met you and been part of your life journey. Thank you again, Wendy, for sharing your story with us today.